Okay, hi guys. Isn't it cool what we can do with technology today? I truly believe that with the help of technology, we can help and improve almost all most and biggest problems on Earth. And with the help of innovation, we can really make our world a better place. But enthusiasm is not enough. Building products and services that people would love, it actually requires hard work and skills. And we people that love technology and love innovation, we usually look for new and shiny things on how can we become more successful. But today, I want to draw your attention to our inside and share my story, how I found that what I need to be more successful is actually what I already had inside of me and myself. So 6 years ago, I realized that I want to be part of this technological revolution. So I joined the first hackathon ever organized here in Lithuania, and it was like 6 years ago, and it happened in ISM. It's called Startup Weekend Vilnius. And back there, I met Robert. And Robert is actually probably the most visionary guy I have ever met. And then he had a brilliant idea. In that hackathon, he wanted to create a social marketplace for learning, where teachers can upload the courses and the students can come and learn. And now probably we heard this story before, right? Because we have Coursera, we have Udemy, but back then, 6 years ago, none of those startups actually existed yet. So we gathered the team, we won that hackathon, and we called our startup Teach Me Good. That's a really original name. So after the hackathon, we gathered almost every evening and start working. So the first thing that we did is came up with a feature list. I know it was maybe 100 different features that could be in our product. And the first feature was actually refer system. That's a really basic feature to start with. And then we keep on going. Then we made an extensive competitor analysis. We did, analyzed about 100 different similar companies by, like a number of different criteria. And then we came up with marketing plan. And then we gathered all the useful resources in one place. So you probably see where the story is going, right? Because we had an idea, which was build a marketplace, and then we had a goal to disrupt the education system, but instead of going there, we were just going in circles and circles and circles, and after 3 months of creating spreadsheets and few presentations, the whole team actually lost our faith in the idea. We lost the belief that we actually can make a difference, and the whole initiative split up. But 2 years afterwards, we learned our lessons, and we start all over again. And this time we were way more serious. The startup name was way more original. This time we called Trust Tribe. And now we learned our mistakes, and this time we were serious. So this time we even raised seed investment. We even made our headquarters in San Francisco. And this time, no more spreadsheets. This time we're going to build a product, like straight in the beginning. So that's how the product looked like. And actually that is the first product I ever designed. So I had a chance to learn. But to make a story short, we spent about 20,000 euros in investment, and it took us about 5-6 months to build the product and ship the product. And we shipped the product, and no one actually was interested in that product. So that was confusing. This time is also, we had an idea, want to make a goal so that people can actually own their reputation online. There's I really believed in that. But instead of reaching the goal, this time went totally different direction. Okay, so that was frustrating. 2 times, 2 ideas, so much hope, so much belief, and just nothing happened. So back then, I was a UI designer myself, and the only way I knew how I could contribute to the team's success was, just by making the products a little bit more pretty. And I can assure you, pretty products doesn't help for companies to be successful. So I raised my personal quest. I raised the question, okay, so how can I help teams to succeed as a designer? Because I really like to be a designer, but the way I could contribute it, I knew that there should be a better way. Okay, so this question led me to San Francisco. In San Francisco, I joined, it's a place for startup professionals to learn, and that place called Tradecraft. So I went there and said, okay, I'm going to study the design. I'm going to see how I can help my teams to be more successful. So I had two really brilliant design teachers, but at the first glance, they didn't look like a typical design teacher that I would expect. So I want to introduce them to you. So meet Laura Klein. She wrote a book, UX for Lean Startups, and everything looks good, but after a few days, she announced, guys, my favorite design tool is Excel spreadsheets. It's like, who designs in Excel spreadsheets? Okay, that looked weird. And there was another lady, her name is Kate Rutter, and everything she did was actually, she was just drawing with markers all over and putting sticky notes all over the place. So okay, that isn't what I was expecting. But after 3 months, I started realizing that there is the whole new world to design that I have never thought about. So my design process was just that little peak of iceberg, but there was a whole more to the design that I thought. So instead of visual design, I started to discover what is design actually is. And what I started realizing that the design is actually like a map that can help us navigate from idea to the goal that we want to go to. Okay, so that was a revolution. Now I say, okay, now I have that secret map. Now I can come and make startups be more successful. Okay, now I have everything I need. So this time, I came back to Lithuania, and I met Justas. Justas is the CEO of Vinted, and I decided to join Vinted. And I was so excited. Now I'm going to make Vinted even more successful. So I started working, and almost nothing changed. So I said, okay, now I need to work even harder. So I started working even harder and sending selfies to my girlfriend, showing that's how I work really hard, that I'm really proud to be the last guy in the office. So I started working even harder, and nothing changed. Okay, but surely and steadily, I started realizing that, okay, I'm not a super unicorn having a special secret weapon called design process, and I'm probably not capable alone to make teams or startups be more successful. Because that's not how the things works, right? Because the whole startup, the whole team is responsible to making that change, to making the products more successful. And then I started realizing that we need to become the whole team as a designer. It's everyone inside the company has to become designers for us to be successful. Okay, and probably things can go weird here, but let me now explain what I mean by how everyone can become designers. So to do that, we need to briefly see what is design. Because design, if you take a definition of design, design is a process of creating things, creating products, services, and systems. So as you see, there's no saying that you have to be artistic, you have to be able to use Photoshop, nothing like that. Design is actually a process. And if we take a deeper look, what is the design process? It can boil down to 3 main steps. So first is empathy. So first we empathize with whom we are creating, and we understand the problem. Then we come to idea stage, and then we see, okay, so how we can solve that problem that we just recognized. And lastly, we share those ideas to find out if they're any good. So as you see, it's nothing creative required to be a designer. Okay. So now let me show you that we all have what it takes to be a designer. And for that, let's look a little bit deeper into archaeology and to see what archaeology can teach us about the design. So let's start by empathy. So that is the first archaeological evidence that people became empathetic. So it happened more or less in 1.5 million years ago, and as a species, and we were a species as Homo erectus, so it was our previous ancestors that later become human. So that guy who you see the skull of, so from archaeological evidence, we kind of sure that for 1 year, he lived without any teeth. So he managed to survive without any teeth for a whole year. And what it means that someone from his tribe should have taken care of him in order for him to survive. So that's the oldest evidence that we see that people start caring for each other. And caring for each other was a crucial thing that let us take care of each other and to be more successful as a species. So 1.4 million years ago, what happened that we developed a capability to be empathetic. So every one of you in the room, we have a mirror neuron, so-called mirror neurons inside our brains. And what those mirror neurons actually does, it allows me to experience what every one of you is experiencing. So for example, I can see you sitting in the chair, and I can experience myself what you feel sitting in that chair. So that's how I can understand others, and that's how I can take care of each other and to be more successful as a species. Okay, so empathy, everyone has something called mirror neurons inside. We're all empathetic. What about ideas? Actually, ideas and to being able to be creative and generating ideas is even older. The first archaeological evidence that we became creative, it happens in 3.5 million years ago. And with the first tool creation, we became creative. And how creativity works. So basically, our frontal cortex manages the whole creativity process. And what happens during the creativity process is that frontal cortex generates different random connections inside our brain. And there is a little part of the brain somewhere there that analyzes each connection. And when the connection makes sense, that part of the brain triggers and say, okay, that is your answer to the problem you are solving. So every one of you have that creativity engine built inside our brains. So we have that as well. And what about sharing? So sharing is actually the most recent innovation of humanity. And that, from archaeological evidence as well, we know that it might happen between 100,000 and 50,000 years ago, but it probably happened even earlier with the invention of language. But what we can know that when we start painting, we definitely start sharing some ideas. And there are many different theories trying to explain why people started to paint on the wall. So I just want to share my favorite one. So David Lewis Williams had the idea that people around that time is likely to use some spiritual practices. I know they start dancing, singing, some of them maybe were using some psychedelic substances. And what they happen to do with those activities, they happen to enter trance-like states. And if you enter a trance-like state, you probably have some visual hallucinations. And it's likely that in those times, those visual hallucinations was really meaningful to early people. Maybe they said, oh, that's a god appearing, or that's so transcendental. But the only way how you could share those visual experiences with others was just actually by painting them on the wall. So, well, true origins of painting on the walls probably won't be available for us. But what is clear that those inventions led us to communicate with each other. It was the first step to written language. It was the first step to visual communication that took such an important role in today's life. So what we see that all it takes to design empathy, ideas, and sharing, we all developed that hundreds of thousands of years or even a million years ago. And every one of you in the room, you have those capabilities built in our brains. So now we know that every one of you is capable of designing. Actually, design is so deeply integrated in our DNA that we don't even recognize when we actually design. Because every day we design a number of emails, we design our morning experience, we design meeting experience, but we're so good at design process that we don't even recognize us designing. Okay, but it's not enough just to know that, okay, I have those tools, I can design. The power of design starts when we start to use those principles consciously and in the most effective way. So I want to share how I discovered those principles and how I learned to use them effectively. And I hope you all can benefit from that. So let's start from empathy. So empathy, as I told you, the first stage in design process. Last year, I started the UX Academy. Now people say, if you want to learn something, you start teaching others and then you learn yourself. So that's actually really true. So that guy in particular, his name is Edmundas, and he told me what is the power of empathy. So every UX Academy, each participant come up with their own project, their own problem they want to solve. So Edmundas chose that he wanted to improve eating experience in the kindergartens where his children is attending. So as the first stage of the design process, empathy, you went into the kindergarten and talked to some of the employees to find out more how you can improve the eating experience. And after the assignment, he came back to the UX Academy and he was a little bit frustrated and said I talked with several women working there, and after a few questions, almost all women start crying. They were, they were so insecure. They was so afraid that I'm gonna tell anyone that I'm, looking for some problem. But what we can learn from that, if we talk with our customers about their problems, and the customers start crying, you can really be sure that you're onto something. You're onto some big problem that needs to be solving. So let's see how we can use, how we can learn to be empathetic with others and make that strong emotional connection to others to actually understand what problems others may have. So to do that, as always, we need to start with ourselves and to understand how we behave internally. So let's do a little experiment. I want you to remember how you woke up today. Just try to remember what was the first thing you did when you woke up. Someone might jump straight into the shower. Someone maybe put some clothing and went to walk a dog. Later, maybe you made a coffee, maybe a breakfast. And just try to recall all the events until you actually left the home. Okay, so now we remember what happened during the morning. Now let's try to think how we felt during each step. How we felt when we just woke up. Did we felt, yay, new morning starts, I'm going to log in, that was going to be so interesting. Or you felt like, oh my gosh, I need a few more hours to sleep. Maybe you feel rushed. So if you take a few more minutes and complete this exercise, you probably can come up with some steps that wasn't the most pleasant for you. I can share mine. So the worst part of my morning is when I'm about to have a shower. Because my shower has a really uneven stream, so it goes super cold, super hot, super cold, super hot. And it requires skill to actually use my shower, because with one hand, for example, you wash your hair, and with another, you actually regulate the water, and that's how you do. So everyone can recognize any part of your morning that is a little bit problematic and that you can improve that. So now let's imagine we have, let's say 4,000 euros in our pocket, and we have 2 spare days to actually spend to improve our morning. I'm really sure that almost every one of you can significantly improve your own morning. What I would do is actually I would buy a new water heater so that I can have a nice and constant stream of warm water. And I'm sure that it would help improve my morning. So then if I wanted to improve all of your mornings, I probably would buy a warm water heater for every one of you. So how many of you will actually have your morning improved by having a new water heater? Yeah, there is few people, but the most of you probably would, I don't know, just have one more thing to put somewhere, right? So if you want to improve our morning routine, usually what works with us, it doesn't work with other people. So if you want to learn or feel empathetic with others, we have to just do what we have just did with ourselves. So, you get your customer, you talk one-on-one, and you ask, first, you just try to ask stories. Tell me the last time you did something, and you hear a story about how they do things that you want to improve. And the last step, you just explore emotions. You just try to ask how they felt, and then you probably will find out that problematic step that needs to be improved. And that's how we really can gain empathy and understand what problems we need to solve. Okay, so now we understand our customers, we gain empathy. Now we know what problems we need to solve. Now it's time to move to the idea phase and see okay, so how we can solve that problem. So how many of you have been in brainstorm meetings? Yeah, most of you. You probably, it's probably impossible not to be participating in brainstorm meetings. But a brainstorm meeting sucks. Almost every time we were running Teach Me Good on Trust Tribe, we had brainstorm sessions, and after the brainstorm sessions, we feel like, oh my gosh, I'm dead. I thought that creativity is a hard work. You worked for 1 hour, now you need to just take a rest. And that's how I thought the creativity works, until I met Indre. Indre is used to teach design thinking in ISM University, and is one of the pioneers of design thinking, and at the same time I think she's the most creative person I've ever met. So I had a chance to work with her. We had an idea maybe to come up with a design agency that we can start here in Lithuania. So for a few months we're meeting in a coffee shop just to work, see maybe what the agency could look like. And one of the first meetings, we took a huge white paper and we just started drawing, saying, okay, what the agency's vision could be, and we just put some pictures and stuff. And that was the first time I had to stop the creativity process because I just can't stop laughing. It felt like, felt like just a really nice time. And during the few hours, we lay a foundation of what the design agency could look like. So at the same time, it was super efficient. So now I see if the design or creativity process feels like you're having fun, that means that you're using your creativity efficient. And if it feels like hard work, you're probably doing something wrong. So let's see how we can do that. So in improvisation artists, they have an exercise called yes and. And they usually use this exercise to warm up before the performances. So how that goes, first guy, for example, says, there's an elephant in the room. And then the second guy has to say yes and continue the story. For example, yes and that elephant has a funny hat. And then the third person who says yes and there is a rabbit under that hat. Did you get the idea, more or less? Okay, so let's just give it a try and just try to play in that game. So I will start. There is an elephant in the room. Can you continue? You say yes and then just...
Yes, and he is dancing.
Yeah. And then?
Yes, and there is a girl who is dancing too.
Cool. Yep.
Yes, and the sun's shining.
Perfect. Yeah. And you?
Yes, and the room doesn't have a roof.
Cool. And you?
Yes, and there are no people.
Perfect. Yeah. So you see where it's going? We can probably go internally and tell internal story. And then maybe we will come up with some original ideas. Then it will become less awkward as in the beginning. So maybe you start having fun. But imagine if one person would just say, no, you stupid, there's no elephant in the room. What will happen then? We probably will get into the discussions like, it's just a game. That's how we try to be more creative. And say, yeah, but that's a dumb fucking game. I'm not interested in that game. So, okay, maybe you want to play another game. Yeah, let's play another game. Okay, which game? So we just get into this internal discussions, and we can see that the story just stops being created, and we keep on talking, but we're not creating anything. So that's what usually happens inside our brain. If we try to come up with ideas and at the same time evaluate which ideas is good and which is not, we jam our creativity process, and that's why we feel tired and we feel wasted afterwards. So here's one secret. So first, we break the creativity process into two parts. We come up with ideas, and if you actually get your creativity flowing freely without any filters, it really feels fun. So then you have many ideas, you make a break, you go to have lunch, wherever, and then just you come back and pick the best ideas. It's working. So I can assure that's the most effective way how people can create. Okay, and the last step. So now we empathize with our users. We know what problems they have. We came up with different ideas how we can solve that problem and pick the best one. Now it's time to share those ideas to understand like if they are worth of something or not. And I learned a valuable lesson actually preparing this very speech. So about 1.5 months ago, I knew that I'm gonna speak and log in. So I drafted a title of the speech on the wall, which said like, people evolve to be designers. So every time I woke up, the first thing I saw was my speech title. So for 1.5 months, every day I was thinking, okay, how am I going to speech be like? And then I put some stories, and the process took me forever. And I wrote, I know, maybe 10 or 20 drafts of the story. And I really thought, okay, the story is going really well. My speech is going to be perfect. Probably it's going to be the best speech ever. And then Emilia actually sitting right there, she said like, maybe you want to practice before login. I said, yeah, sure. I'm pretty confident. It's pretty cool. So actually, this Monday we started practicing, and I brought my beloved story, and I told my story, and they didn't understand anything of the story. They friendly trying to say me, like, maybe you should improve this and maybe that a little bit, and maybe you can rewrite the whole beginning and you can change that. And I got so angry. For 1.5 months, I persuaded myself that my story is so super perfect, and now someone says like, I know, maybe it's not that perfect. And then I realized that's true. I just persuaded myself that that's perfect. So happily, I had a few more days to improve that, and I hope my story will be a little bit better today. So, but that brings me to remember a quote I really like, and it's from founder of LinkedIn. And he said, like, if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you have launched too late. And using design, we don't need actually to launch products to get the feedback. We can use some other techniques. So let me share the last story of how we do that on Vinted. So I'm leading one of the product teams, and my product team is responsible for a shopping experience on Vinted. So our goal is just to make shopping experience as good as it could be. So we wanted to improve landing experience and say how we can help shoppers be more successful while they landed in the product. So we do the whole design process. We first made interviews, understand the problems, then we came up with different ideas, and then there was time for sharing. But among those ideas, there was some personalization going on. So we said, like, how we can make landing page personalized. So if any of you would ask any developer to say, let's build a personalization engine, they would say, yes, sure, it will take maybe 3-4 months. And 3-4 months is a long time. So what we did instead, we gathered the whole team, and we said, okay, how we can make this prototype in 1 day. So we asked our BI analyst to analyze the users that we're about to ask for interviews. So he came up manually for some suggestions. Then we asked designer to include those manual suggestions into design prototype. So we used Flinto, come up with a interactive prototype that looks something like that. And next day we were able to show this personalized prototype for each of the members. So sure, we found out that some of the ideas works, some of the ideas doesn't work, and we included those working ideas and we actually started building them. But what's the main thing about that? Because in Teach Me Good, the first startup, we never actually shared our ideas and we never got feedback. On Trust Tribe, it took more or less 5 months for us to get the feedback and understand if our idea is worth or not. And on Vinted, now it takes more or less like 3 days to complete the same cycle. So that's, guys, that's the power of design. And we all are designers. We all have a designer inside of us. Empathy, ideas, and sharing made us human. So let's use the same principles and design a better world around us. And the only way how we can do that is if we design it together as a team. Thank you, guys.